Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. See the little switch on the side of the microphone, Bethany, that says on-off? When you have it in the off position, your mic doesn't come on. It is 6:07 on News Talk 105.9 WMAL. Making sense. Yes,
sorry,
ma'am?
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, please.
The news. No, I try to spend as much time as possible alone and not talking to you. And so
yes. I know. I get it. Believe me. Yes, I understand. It's especially at 6:07 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Good Amen. Thursday, one and all. I'm Andrew Langer in for Larry O'Connor. Today, I'll be back tomorrow. Larry will be back on Monday, sitting alongside Bethany Mandel, the Mom Wars Substack, Mom Wars podcast. Is there a Mom Wars going on? Is this like Tech Wars? I mean, what?
There's a war, baby, out there.
I don't doubt it. Listen, we got a great show today. We're going to be joined in a little bit by Sam Kay. He's a Republican pollster in Virginia because we got a statewide election going on in the Commonwealth, and so you're going to want to check that out. We got in the next hour, we got Mike Haradopoulos. He's a congressman from Florida, a member of the House Finance Committee, talking about Congress coming back. Jim Jordan, chairman of the House Judiciary Committee on Free Speech, which we'll be discussing in just a moment. National security expert and CPAC board member KT McFarland. She's going to join us in the 8 a.m. hour. And apparently there are some very serious deficiencies at the Secret Service. Susan Crabtree is going to talk about a wild Inspector General report that is out there. Listen, I am a free speech absolutist, Bethany. Mm-hmm. I truly am. This is to me, I've long said that the only response to speech you don't like is more speech. I get very nervous when we talk about limitations to speech. I've gone online, though I no longer engage in lots of arguments on Twitter. But I used to go and post the article that talks about why the concept of you can't yell fire in a crowded theater was bad law when it was decided and thankfully was later overturned. But apparently, Jamie Raskin, I always love hearing from Jamie Raskin.
He's my guy.
Because, yes, I'm sorry about that. He apparently teaches constitutional law. You wouldn't think that to sort of hear him speak about the Constitution and constitutional issues. But here is they're doing a hearing they did a hearing yesterday in the House on this, Europe's threat to American speech and innovation. Let's hear Jamie Raskin. Let's play cut number 10.
There is a free speech crisis in America today, but there's no free speech crisis in Britain. There is a free speech crisis in America today, but there's no free speech crisis in Britain.
Yeah. Okay, Bethany, go ahead. You had a visceral reaction to this.
Can I bless you with a story this morning?
Please.
Today's Thursday. Is today Wednesday or Thursday?
Today's Thursday.
Today's
in fact Thursday.
Thanks very
yes.
much. I was like, I'm going to bless you with a story this Wednesday morning. I was like, wait a second. I don't think it's Wednesday. Okay. I was in the UK, in London, in May with 5 of my children. And we went to a Shabbat dinner and met a man who told us a wild story. He had been arrested the year prior, and he is this, buttoned down. If you were to create a caricature of a British man, he was it. Buttoned down,
right.
Dressed to the nines, a banker, everything. But he's kind of an internet troll a little bit, but in a nice way. And so he got into it on Facebook with another Jew who was anti-Israel. And, viscerally, this guy was anti-Israel.
Got it.
And my new friend, his name was Hubert, because you can't make these things up. He was so British. Hubert called him a capo. Capo is a Jew who helped the Nazis during the Holocaust.
Yes.
And so he analogized that this guy was a modern-day capo in betraying the Jewish people with Israel.
Right.
Because, this guy really was a garbage Jew.
Yes.
And I say that, obviously, as a Jew. And then he gets a knock on his door 2 days later after calling this guy a capo, and he was arrested for doing it.
Got it.
And so we hear this whole story. My children are between the ages of 12 and 3.
Hold on. Let me just be really clear about this. So one gentleman accuses another gentleman of being a stooge for a fascist, evil, totalitarian regime, and then the fascist, evil, totalitarian regime reaches out and arrests the man who accuses him of doing the very thing he denies that he is.
This is why they pay you the big bucks.
There we go,
because that's correct.
Okay. Just making sure I'm tracking with you here.
Yeah, no, that is correct, and I'm very glad that you said that.
Thank you.
My kids, afterwards, I'm talking to them, and they're like, Mom, if that were a law in America, you would be in jail forever. Because you are the meanest person on the internet and everyone on Twitter hates you. And I'm like, I'm so glad that you already know that, children. And I said, we talk about the Bill of Rights and, the Constitution as this intellectual exercise in our home.
Yeah.
And I said, here is a very real example of why we need the First Amendment.
Absolutely.
We fought a whole war so we could have it against these people that were in this country right now.
100%. And this, something, listen, I wish I'd known about this because I would have tuned in and watched this. I think this would have been, you think about matchups of people going toe-to-toe with one another. And Nigel Farage and Jamie Raskin going toe-to-toe, I could listen to this all day. Let's start with Jamie Raskin. Let's play cut number 11.
Mr. Trump and Mr. Farage both claim they're protectors of free speech, but they only want to protect speech they agree with. I had my own close encounter with that when Mr. Farage and his team presented for more than an hour in a conversation we had about free speech. And after 3 minutes of talking, he cut me off and terminated the meeting because he didn't like what I was saying. That's the kind of free speech he's committed to. There is a free speech crisis in America today. No one has stopped him from going on Russian TV 17 times and saying also and repeating that the one world political leader he most admired was Vladimir Putin, even though Vladimir Putin is a war criminal and a dictator. No one has stopped Mr. Farage from parroting Putin's absurd talking points, like when Farage claimed that NATO, the U.S. and Britain, provoked this war in Ukraine. For a man who fashions himself as some kind of a free speech martyr, Mr. Farage seems most at home with the autocrats and dictators of the world who are crushing freedom on earth.
There you go. But no free speech problem in Great Britain. Well, here is Nigel Farage's response to this. Let's play cut 12.
I'm delighted to reacquaint with the charming Mr. Raskin. That was delightful testimony you gave me earlier on.
We got the snort laugh from
with your speech. But hey, that's fine. You can say what you like. I don't care. Because that's what free speech is. And in a sense, this has all been going wrong now for a couple of decades.
Right. And the reality is people are going to jail in the UK. And yes, we've got a problem in America with people being deplatformed. I mean, obviously, right? We went through this entire thing with COVID and the deep state going after folks who dared speak out about this. We had this happen afterwards with people who dared speak out and criticize the Biden administration. But no free speech crisis. I'm sorry, Bethany, go right ahead.
I think some of the more glaring arrests were there was a guy who was arrested at Heathrow. He was met by 5 armed police officers, and he was immediately arrested. His crime was 3 gender-critical tweets.
Oh, yeah.
Basically saying a man cannot become a woman. And to her credit, the lioness of this issue in the UK is J.K. Rowling.
Right.
And she tweeted, what the blank has the UK become? This is totalitarianism, utterly deplorable. I could not agree more. But what's crazy is, could J.K. Rowling be arrested?
Oh, 100%, right?
Not,
and,
right?
That might be the Rubicon that they would that they don't want to cross. But yeah, the gentleman arrested was Graham Linehan. He's a writer, comedy writer, and that's the thing. This is something that comedians in the United States have talked about ad nauseum. The idea that people can no longer take a joke, but this is just it. Comics. Right, what is it? It's the line from History of the World Part 1. Mel Brooks in Rome is a stand-up philosopher, right? If you cannot be a stand-up philosopher in this world, which was a stand-up comedian is, how can you satirize? The world? Listen, we got so much more to get to, but first it's 6:16 a.m.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
And Bethany, you were continuing. We were talking about this Graham Linehan thing, and he's the comedy writer who was arrested as he got off the plane at Heathrow. There is something very disturbing going on in the UK with regards to this. But, and it's one of those things where you would think the UK Prime Minister, well, no, you wouldn't think these days. The UK Prime Minister, he's not upset about people being arrested for tweeting out their opinions about trans people. He's upset about Nigel Farage coming to America and testifying. Let's play cut number 14.
The honourable member for Clacton is not here representing his constituencies in the House that he was elected to. No, he's flown to America to badmouth and talk down our country. And worse than that, Mr. Speaker, if you can believe it, he's gone there to lobby the Americans to impose sanctions on this country which will harm working people. You cannot get more unpatriotic than that. It's a disgrace.
It's one of those. Do you know who Oswald Mosley is?
No.
Oswald Mosley was the leader he was the pro-Hitler leader of the British fascists in the 1930s. In fact, the last couple of seasons of Peaky Blinders, he plays a role as the main character gets elected to Parliament, and Churchill, ardent anti-Nazi, sort of recruits the main character to go and spy on the fascists. Anyway, the point is Oswald Mosley would be applauding what is happening in the UK right now. With regards to their approach to speech. Your thoughts here, Bethany?
Yeah, no, I mean, it is deeply, deeply disturbing. And, his chief complaint is that he's coming over here to talk bad. Like, that's not the offense here.
He's not talking badly about Britain, by the way. He's talking
not.
badly about Britain straying from the concepts of classical liberalism, right? And reverting to the King George III era in which various rights of citizens were being taken away willy-nilly by the monarchy, basically. And I know it's not the monarchy that's doing this, but at the end of the day, for Nigel Farage is reminding, as by the way, and I worry about, there's a wonderful series of think tanks doing great and thoughtful work out of Great Britain. The Prosperity Institute is doing great work over there. There's a group called the Growth Commission, and God forbid that any of these entities sort of run afoul of these speech codes. I would be very worried about them.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a precipice moment, I think, for the UK.
Right.
And it must be scary to be there right now as someone who has opinions that, don't fall in the mainstream. As bad as it was during COVID for all of us, we could say whatever we wanted to, and in a lot of ways we could do whatever we wanted to.
Yeah.
But the last, I don't know, 6 years or so have been a real education for me and how far things can go so fast.
Right. I mean, COVID was the test, right? And listen, I'm not saying that I'm not going to raise a conspiracy theory, right? But at the end of the day, what COVID demonstrated to the authoritarians was how they could go about chipping away at our rights, right? The idea, we were talking about this just a couple of weeks ago, the issue of, looking back at the depths of COVID and people not being able to sun isolated on a beach, right? If you weren't up and walking, you couldn't do that. And you couldn't be in the water. God forbid you were in the water. But that was the test, right? It's the test. It's the, using the climate crisis, the so-called climate crisis, as an excuse to put trackers in people's cars or to put kill switch. I mean, this sounds like a wild conspiracy theory, Bethany.
We were talking the other day about those stupid switches
that
are
in
all of our
start-stop switches in
the
cars.
start-stop switches.
Yeah.
It was a test to see how much people were willing to suspend their understanding of reality. Walk in and the thing that I'm most proud about from the COVID era was that it really, really red-pilled my children. And so we would walk into the pizza place, and this is not a diss on our pizza place. He was just following Montgomery County stupid law. You walk into the pizza place wearing a mask, you sit down, and if you have a beverage or food in front of you, then the mask comes off.
Right.
And so you can spread COVID when you're standing, but once you're sitting and there's food in front of you,
right.
COVID disappears.
That's the magic. That was the magical thinking at the time. Listen, before we go to the break, but we got Jim Jordan joining us at 7:35. I just love hearing Nigel Farage talk. Let's play cut number 15.
And it's extraordinary that, I come from the land of Magna Carta. I come from the land that gave us the mother of parliaments. And it doesn't give me any great joy to be sitting in America and describing the really awful authoritarian situation that we have now sunk into. J.D. Vance did us all a service at the Munich Security Conference back in February this year. He really got this debate up and running, and it's a vital one. We've run on since then. The Online Safety Act was put in place by the last Conservative government. I don't doubt for a minute they're good intentions, but sometimes the road to hell is paved with those good intentions.
The most well-intentioned of policies eventually bumps up against very real realities. We got so much more to get to. It's 6:24 here on WMAL. The New York Times is reporting Eric Adams may get out of the race, so we can take that with a grain of salt. Sam Kay, pollster for the Republican consulting firm OnMessage, joining us to talk about the statewide race in Virginia. I'm Andrew Langer. That's Bethany Mandel. This is O'Connor and Company at 6:30.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. WMAL. News now. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
Well, good morning, one and all. This is O'Connor and Company, WMAL. So glad I can be here. It's 6:37 on News Talk 105.9. We are at WMAL. We are making sense of the news. I'm Andrew Langer in for Larry O'Connor today, sitting alongside Bethany Mandel. Hello, Bethany.
Good morning. Thrilled to be here.
We got great stuff going on the show today. Going to be joined by Mike Haradopoulos, a member of the House from Florida, to talk about the House coming back into session. Jim Jordan, we're going to continue our discussion of free speech, this hearing that happened yesterday, Nigel Farage and Jamie Raskin having fireworks. KT McFarland's going to join us to talk about what's going on the international stage, and a bombshell Inspector General report about the Secret Service. Susan Crabtree from Real Clear Politics is going to join us as well. But joining us all right now, Sam Kay. He is a pollster. He works for the firm OnMessage, Inc. He handles the polling for Attorney General Jason Miyares' reelection campaign in Virginia. And what I love about this race, Sam, is that the guy who's running for Attorney General is acting as though Jason Miyares hasn't been in the job and been engaging in law and order for the last 4 years. The Jay Jones is his opponent. I get text messages from these Democrats, and it's just amazing the alternative universe that they're living in. How's it all looking? What's going on statewide these days?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Virginia's shaping up to have a very interesting election. And what I think is funny about Jay Jones is he's running to be the top cop of Virginia, and he's never even had courtroom experience. He's never been a prosecutor. And what's really funny is, people in Virginia view the Attorney General office as a law and order office. They view it as a prosecutor who's supposed to call balls and strikes. And Jay Jones has supported some of the worst policies on criminal justice reform in Virginia history. He supports getting rid of cash bail. He supports getting rid of school resource officers. He supported getting rid of mandatory minimums for sexual abusers, and he even voted on the bill that got rid of the mandatory reporting requirement for sex crimes in public schools. So this guy's just the worst of the worst, and he's going up against Jason Miyares, who has a phenomenal 4-year record of taking on crime, violent criminals, and going after opioid abusers, big pharma, and the social media companies that come after our kids.
So you had a great piece in the Daily Caller. I think it ran it ran on the 1st, so just 3 days ago. And you argue Virginia's Attorney General is red for a reason, and cited some interesting polling from MSNBC dating back to 1993, holding that Republicans hold a consistent advantage on crime, I think for obvious reasons. So given sort of the polling that you're seeing on this race, how is it looking for Miyares? And when you sort of break down those crosstabs on issues like crime and all of those things, are you seeing a distinct advantage?
Yeah, definitely. So I do see a distinct advantage for Republicans on crime in Virginia. Voters, and specifically on the Attorney General office and how voters view that office compared to us versus Jay Jones. Like, for example, most voters view the office as a job that's supposed to fight local crime versus fighting federal issues like Donald Trump. And voters trust us on the issue. In that NBC News poll that I cited in the article, Republicans are more trusted than Democrats on crime in the last few years by over 25 percentage points. And so when voters see the Attorney General office as a top cop type job, and we have an advantage on the issues like crime, public safety, especially going against a guy like Jay Jones, who's just terrible on those issues, it gives us real advantage. And we are kind of seeing that in the polls right now. You know, there's several public polls out that kind of show the governor's race, you know, at maybe like a 6 to 7 point margin for the Democrat, but the AG race is kind of more of like in the 3 margin for the Democrat range. So we are kind of seeing some, you know, it's still early and maybe there's a lot of elements like name ID, you know, more folks maybe know Abigail and Winsome than Jason and Jay Jones. But I think as we get deeper into this race, we're going to see those spreads kind of widen as folks kind of learn more about the issues that Jason and Jay support. So.
And speaking of the issues, one thing that I love that Jason launched was the One Pill Can Kill effort on the opioid epidemic. I think that the more people learn about these very specific programs, I think the better your polling numbers will be.
Yeah, I think that issue specifically is one of Jason's best issues. You know, I think violent crime, getting criminals off the street, all of that is crucial and part of the you know, what makes the Attorney General in the eyes of the voters. But you're right. One of the things that's pulled the highest for us is that One Pill Can Kill campaign that he started, where he takes on, you know, things from the pharma companies distributing the opioids into our communities, as well as the gang members who are drug trafficking fentanyl and other drugs like that into our communities. And that kind of multi-front effort has really been a winner for Jason. And actually, I believe the stats show that when Jason came into office, Virginia was one of the worst states in the nation for opioid deaths. And now I think listed last year, it's one of the lowest states for opioid deaths in the nation. So it's drastic improvement in the last few years.
We're talking with Sam Kay. He's a Republican pollster. He's actually the pollster handling the polling for Attorney General Jason Miyares' campaign. His social media is at NYC Sam Kay. It's your hometown, Sam. I got to ask you, what do you make of these New York Times reports that Eric Adams is going to drop out of the race?
Yeah, you know, that is a crazy race shaping up. They have a terrible Kami Mamdani socialist, who's I got to be honest, you know, as a pollster, he's probably going to win that race. You know, that's a Democrat state, but I think, we'll see what happens with Eric. Everything I see from Eric on the ground suggests that he's going to stay in this race to the end.
Right.
But maybe if he gets a nice job from the White House, he'd consider dropping out. But frankly, if you look at the polling, he's not really getting more than 10% of the ballot share. So I'm not sure how much him alone dropping out is going to change the dynamic.
Right, there you go. Listen, I got to find out where you went to high school, because I grew up in New York as well, but not that we need to talk about that on the air. Sam Kay, thank you so very much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks guys.
We got so much more to get to right now at 6:44 here on WMAL.
Later this morning in the Chris Plant Show, Epstein survivors say they'll put together the Epstein list, but that they'll keep it confidential. 9 a.m. on WMAL.
That sounds awfully like a blackmail scheme to me. I don't know about you, Bethany, but I hear that. I hear we're going to create a list, but we're going to keep it confidential. Anyway, guys, it's O'Connor and Company at WMAL. I'm Andrew Langer, sitting alongside Bethany Mandel, and as we just were talking about this issue of New York, this New York Times report. Trump advisors have discussed a job for Adams if he quits the mayor's race. The conversations have also involved finding a place for Curtis Sliwa with the goal of giving Andrew Cuomo a better chance of defeating Zoran Mamdani, or as our last guest called him, Kami Mamdani, in November. I don't know. Listen, I take I take anything the New York Times reports with a massive grain of salt. The Gray Lady, the former paper of record, has been known for printing, for being used as the mouthpiece for folks who want to promote agendas. Your thoughts here, Bethany?
So I think that there's some truth to this. So I was just reading in the Free Press, Olivia Reingold was reporting that Eric Adams is in Florida right now, actually, and his team is claiming that it was for his birthday, but it's also the home state of our president.
Yes.
So I mean, there's a lot of pressure building on Eric Adams and also on Curtis Sliwa to step out, because if you care about the future of New York City, Mamdani cannot be mayor, and so it's. I mean, he has. If I'm going to pick who I want to be mayor,
right,
it is Eric Adams, but the numbers don't lie.
Right. Well, listen, he could also be campaigning down in Florida. There are a lot of New York voters who live.
Fundraising for sure.
So fundraisings for sure that are down there without it. Yes, folks who care about New York and care enough about New York that they felt compelled to flee it. That being said, most of those folks are actually up in New York in the summer months to sort of make sure of that. But I mean, that's just it. I don't know. I always get skeptical when we get into this Game of Thrones kind of stuff that's happening out there. I'm a firm believer in Occam's razor that the simplest explanation is usually the correct one. But yeah, it underscores the fact. I'm also not entirely certain that the Trump administration particularly cares about that. I mean, do you think that? I mean, I guess Trump is a New Yorker.
Does. Trump cares very much. He's been talking about this issue a lot. And I'm also, by the way, I'm seeing this reporting in places like the New York Post and the Free Press, like places that are not friendly necessarily to Cuomo, who the intel is the intel, and I think we're seeing it from enough places that I trust. Like the Free Press, like the New York Post, they're not regurgitating sort of Oppo research here.
I don't know. I sort of get in here and I'm thinking that this is the kind of thing that is getting spread by maybe not Cuomo, maybe it's Curtis Sliwa's campaign, maybe it's Mamdani's campaign as well. I don't listen. My favorite story, obviously, this week was the feral cat story earlier from Monday about Curtis Sliwa. Listen, the reality is, of course, that he is the likelihood of Eric Adams winning this race is slim to none, and maybe this is one way of sort of encouraging it. It would certainly be an elegant solution. Again, because it would be an elegant solution to this situation.
Right.
I am skeptical of it. Listen, we got much more to get to. It's 6:52 here on WMAL.